Hey, superstars. Thanks for joining us today. I'm your host, Aaron Zakowski, and today I'm chatting with my good friend, Ben Bernstein. Ben is currently the director of acquisition at SimilarWeb, an AI-based market intelligence platform that helps monitor web and mobile app traffic. Hey, Ben, so glad to have you on the show. How are you doing today?
Well, it's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit more about yourself and also about the company SimilarWeb.
Okay, so about myself, my name's Ben. I grew up in Manhattan. I live in Israel now. I'm married with three kids.
Nice.
I've been doing basically internet marketing since I graduated. Since I finished my MBA.
Mhm.
Let's say PPC for 7, 8 years.
I
I
guess we worked
started
together right at
in
the beginning of that.
one
That's it.
agent. We did. So that's the truth. That's actually the most important part. Aaron used to be my manager, and he did the paid advertising, and I did social media.
Right.
And obviously, I was inspired to get into paid advertising because of him. And actually, my next job after that, I decided I wanted to do that. So
Right.
I did that in one place.
Mhm.
Then I went to an e-commerce agency. Then I was in a different agency called Quality Score, which is which I would say is the largest performance agency in Israel, and it's up there in EMEA. And the last 2 years, I was the head of what we call the Disney department, which is an acronym for Display Search Native and YouTube. In other words, everything that's not Facebook. I guess Snapchat and then Pinterest. There, it's really the social department and the Google and native department.
Yep.
And I started at SimilarWeb 9 months ago. So I've been here for 9 months. Yeah, I started in November 2020.
Awesome. So tell us, I think a lot of people know SimilarWeb already, but for those who living under a rock and don't know the company, if you could explain a little bit, what the company is, what you guys do.
So it's interesting. I think that a lot of people, I'm going to include myself in this, that a lot of people know what SimilarWeb is. What exactly we do is kind of a mystery, but I could give some basic points about, the history of the company, and then I'll sort of like get into what we do. So the company was founded in 2013 by Or Ofer. Went through a couple different iterations, and in short, what it does is it measures what's going on the internet, which obviously sounds simple, but the applications of it are somewhat interesting. The big news really for us is that we had an IPO very recently
Right. Right.
on the
Congrats. That's awesome.
NASDAQ. Yes. So that was like really big news.
Uh-huh.
I can't say that I had that much to do with it,
Oh,
but
you're good.
I'll say that I joined in November and we already have an IPO, so people could make whatever conclusions they want from that.
So understanding the company. So as I understand SimilarWeb, right? So I
Okay.
can go on there. I'm curious. I see a competitor. I see a big website. I'm curious where they're getting their traffic from. At a basic level, I know I could see how much is coming from search, how much is coming from paid social, paid search, referral, direct, et cetera. And then you kind of break down, what keywords are coming through, et cetera, et cetera. And that's, cool insights. Is that really what the product does, or is there another
Yes.
layer more to it than
So that's definitely one application.
that?
And as far as the way we actually divide it is, everything that we do is measuring the internet.
Okay.
What we do, the way we though have the product marketed, or the applications of it, we divide it into what we call 5 solutions. So what you described, it makes the most sense that that's what you would say, because we have one solution that's called the marketing solution. That's one thing that we do. I want to see where my competitors getting referrals from. And that's a great way, if you want to do, if people who want to do affiliate research, they say, oh, this site is sending a ton to my competitor. Why don't I reach out to him and say, I'll give you, $1,000 a lead.
Yep.
See what keywords, see what landing pages, see their search ads, et cetera, et cetera. The other 4 solutions are, we have a research solution, which is all kinds of people who want to benchmark various different trends on the internet. Think of someone who would maybe want to be interested in a ComScore or a Nielsen. We have a lot of people who want to see, certain industry trends, not necessarily this specific competitor, but how much is is the growing is in the furniture market on in terms of that.
Yep.
We have a sales solution which is dedicated towards professional salespeople, which is kind of like prospecting, lead enrichment, and it's you're able to see all these different things based on again, it's internet data. I'll give you an example. We have a lot of logistics companies. That's like a big market for us. Let's say I see a website that's that's based in America, that's getting a ton of traffic in South Africa. So if I'm a logistics company, that's especially if I'm like South African, I could say, hey, XYZ company, I see that you're getting lots of traffic from South Africa. We're a South African-based logistics company. We could help you, bring packages here. So that's like a good way to like get the relevant leads of this. You can sort it by technology, whatever. There's an investor one, which actually is one of our more, is one of our newer ones. And I find it fascinating, which is you could basically get internet data on any public or private company. So you can imagine as companies become more internet based, there's tons of information to be gleaned from that. Okay. If you're an investor and I want to say, okay, Netflix is about to release their earnings for Q2. I wonder what happened, in terms of usage or this. Facebook, as as a Facebook ad professional, if I told you that the time on site in the United States and Canada increased from a minute to a minute and a half, you would realize, wow, that means Facebook had that much more inventory in Q2. I bet they made a lot of money. Now, obviously, none of this could be substituted for, I'll give all the legal disclosures that none of what I just said should be taken as legal investing advice. But you could see how this could be very interesting information to investors. Yes. And the last solution, which is really our newest, is shoppers, which is all kinds of, let's say, data on Amazon. That's the simplified version of it. I want to see what products are being sold a lot on Amazon, maybe what categories. If I saw, I don't know, not only just dog stuff, but dog chew toys are huge on Amazon. All of a sudden, maybe I'm a conglomerate. I want to invest in that. Maybe I want to I'm just buy a ton of dog chew toys from the Far East and sell them on Amazon, whatever it may be.
Okay.
And while on one hand this is really interesting because there's a lot of different things, and it's not simply positioning one towards one thing. It does make it a bit of a challenge for me as a marketer. I'm selling a product, and it is the same product, but it's also kind of 5 different products. So it is
you get a different avatar that you're targeting with each product line.
It's completely different.
Yeah. So let's talk about the marketing within the company. Now we've got a good grasp of what you guys do. Starting off, how big is the marketing team? I mean, you're the director of acquisition, so I'm assuming that means paid advertising, right?
That's paid advertising.
Okay.
Yes.
And you've got a team under you that's working on paid with you?
So actually, I was actually the first hire for paid. I do have one person who's under me. We're hopefully going to add to this in H2. Great. How big is the marketing team? I think that we're at 80 people now, 80 something people. Now, SimilarWeb, it's an international company. We have most of the marketing, though, sit in either Tel Aviv or the US. We have a couple different branches. Our CMO actually is in an office close to Washington. We have some of the other marketers are in New York, a lot in Tel Aviv. SEO is also in Tel Aviv, but we have an analyst team who does all kinds of data research for us. We have what we call MIR, which is more or less the people who sales qualification. They call the leads, and they which is actually a big part of the marketing team. And I'm trying to think what other functions we have. We do have a media buyer that's separate than paid media. Other than that, we have a big social, and content is huge. That's a huge department.
So with 80 people marketing, across all the different verticals, I guess. you're two people, it sounds like, doing paid acquisition. So what is, I'm assuming there's a correlation there in terms of what's driving the most growth of the company. First, I'm sure your impact is tremendous, and we're going to get into that in a second. But so what is the biggest driver of growth kind of historically within the company? I guess that's going back even before you got there. And right now, what's really driving the most acquisition for the company right now?
So that's actually a great point that you make there, or a great question, I should say, because the truth is, historically, SimilarWeb did not invest that much in paid advertising. They had, because they had, I'm sure a lot of people know SimilarWeb from their free tool, so that just naturally drove a tremendous brand awareness and also SEO value, just in terms of their free tool. Okay, because anytime you're looking for a website, SimilarWeb might be the second or third result under that website. That might be stats for abc.com.
Oh, wow.
So that was a big driver of lots of free traffic. Now, today, and the truth is, they had a ton of leads historically. I think the split into the different solutions was really like a turning point, because it really helped focus the product before I got there. But in terms of now what's driving the most growth, is I would say that, yes, there's a big investment in paid media. We went from, I'm going to exclude branded. We went from spending less than 100K a month to nearly $1 million a month. Wow. Spend is really, the growth is the operative word. SEO, also a huge investment, and that kind of comes in line with a bunch of other things, because it can't just be one person, making backlinks. Obviously, there's a strategy behind it, but a lot of it is content. A lot of it is, working on various things within the website to get it up to speed. A tremendous growth, a tremendous emphasis on data. Our analyst team was one person when I got there, and now it's 5. Okay. Or excuse me, it's 4. They're looking for a 5th person. Okay. So, and in the end of the day, this is a growth-oriented company at this point, simply because once you're publicly traded, it's not like, we got to the end of the rainbow and there's a pot of gold at the end. Yeah. It's actually kind of the opposite. Now, every single quarter, someone's going to say, "Why aren't you here?" Or, "Good job getting here. This is now where I expect you to be at the end of the next quarter." So it's constantly, being measured by what you're expected to do via the market, and having to meet that. And obviously, paid is a big part of that.
Sure. So let's get into paid. I mean, that's your specialty. That's my specialty. I'm sure we could learn a lot. So you said you got $1 million or so of monthly budget for paid. Big picture, kind of what platforms and channels are you spending that on? Is it Facebook? Is it search? So
search would be the biggest. And in the end of the day, it's one of these things where it's kind of a cliche, but 80-20. I do a ton of experiments, but in the end of the day, there's certain things that really drive our growth. I would say there's 4 or 5 different keyword groups that really drive our growth. And the idea is to expand them. Does that mean making better ads? That means making better landing pages. That means expanding into different territories. That means translating these keywords into many languages and targeting we'll sell to basically, in any country. So as long as there's search volume, I will say that even in non-speaking English countries, a lot of the search is in English, because they're looking for things for business.
The person who's going to buy this product probably speaks English even in foreign countries.
Yes, but there are relevant searches in Chinese, Japanese, French, German to justify the investment in them. That's what I'll say. And that's actually something more recent in terms of this. The translations came in maybe 2 months ago, and only now am I beginning to see the fruits of that. So that's a big driver. Another driver, which honestly was something I had zero experience with before, is actually LinkedIn. And there's something that I should explain this, that as opposed to a lot of SaaS, I don't want to say as opposed to, let's say this isn't necessarily a self-service platform. We do have a self-service product for smaller companies and for smaller marketing companies, and which does a lot of the things you alluded to before, keyword research or whatever. But most of our business is you have to leave a lead and you have to go through a sales process. So in terms of optimization, this is a big problem or a big challenge. You don't see the fruits of your labor. In the end of the day, I don't care if I have a lead or not. A lead is great, okay? But a lead from, I don't know, Steve Jobs is better than 100 leads from non-Steve Jobs. Now, I'm simplifying a little bit because I'm assuming that, Steve Jobs isn't alive anymore. So
that was a big assumption.
Besides that, but yeah, that would probably be fraud. But besides that, it's not necessarily the CEOs who buy. By the way, that's a bit of something that I learned. But that putting that aside, what happens is it goes through a process. So I'll spend X amount of money a month, and then what we try and do, we qualify the leads. That's a big part of the job. And then hopefully we get meetings with some of these. Some of the meetings turn into pipeline, like that we, assuming this person closes, this is how much we think we could sell them on this annually. And some of those close. So keep in mind that then we're really optimizing it, in theory, and it's not how I practically work, for customer lifetime value divided by, customer acquisition cost. So, it's not something where I could on day one spend for a month and say, okay, I'm going to wait 5 years and I'm going to see if this is worth it. So it begins with a series of what I call.
So it's an important question there is that lead attribution, because I think a lot of us are struggling. Some of us aren't spending $1 million a month. But even if it's $100,000 a month, dealing with that attribution of, hey, we've captured a lead, it may not convert within any measurable attribution window, or there might be multiple touches in the middle. How do you guys account for that?
So the truth is I do look at what we call touch leads, but in the end of the day, we do first touch attribution. That's not necessarily because it's the best. I think it's mostly because it's the simplest. Now, after 60, 90 days, if a lead never came to the website, I think it resets. There's something that, our analyst team, they crunched the numbers and they came up with it. Now, that also proves a bit of a challenge. What does that mean then? I should never run remarketing because it's not first click, no, that's ridiculous. So for remarketing, and I do look at last click attribution, but in the end of the day, all of our internal dashboards are all based on first click attribution, simply because that's really the simplest way to do it. And I'm not saying that's the best way to do it.
But it's interesting to hear, because so many of us, without the resources of an analyst team and all these extra things, which is, to be honest, the majority of the listeners and the majority of startups and tech companies even that aren't at IPO level yet, we're going to go with first touch. We're going to go with last touch. We're going to go with something like that. And we know there's middle steps. And as you said, remarketing is never going to have that first touch, but it might be what helps get that first touch over the finish line to allow it to actually achieve value and actually make the sale.
So something that, getting back to like different channels is I'm a big fan of LinkedIn, and I never used it before. So one thing that I found, especially in like B2B, is the remarketing on Google, which and Facebook. I hit them a lot, and it's okay. It's it's not bad per se, but the remarketing on LinkedIn is a completely different value. And
so tell us what you mean.
So it's a good question, because in the end of the day, I'm not a mind reader, okay? But there's a couple different aspects here. First of all, I'm guessing that someone on GDN wants to read, the news or whatever. Someone on Facebook doesn't necessarily want to be about, into like marketing, website traffic analysis. Someone who's on LinkedIn is in theory working or pretending to be working, whatever it may be. So they're in a completely different mindset. So there, I really don't mind giving the multiple touch points. You know what I'm saying? So I'm happy to any articles that I think are interesting to our target audience, I will promote to them. I will say, by the way, LinkedIn's cookie pool is much smaller than Facebook's and Google, so there is less of a chance to, let's say, scale it. But I'm happy to send them any we have some articles about TAM, SAM, and SUM, which is calculating market size, okay? Calculating your market share, all these kinds of things that would interest people who would be interested in our product.
Yeah.
And, I hit them with it. Are they going to necessarily convert from that?
To a blog post?
Yeah, I send them to a blog post. I do have direct, contact us or this, but a lot of people just convert from these blog posts because they already know us because it's remarketing.
Yep.
They're already in the mood. It's just let me show them that the type of content that I think would be valuable to someone who would want our product. Because at the end of the day, because it's a whole sales product or whatever, there's no way to trick someone into, no one's going to accidentally sign for something that's 15, 20K. Okay. Yeah. I need to target things that would be interesting to them. And I think that we have interesting value propositions and we can say, okay, this is how you would measure it. And if you're the type of person interested in measuring this stuff, I bet you would also be interested in our product. And, we have all kinds of CTAs in the blog posts, or people naturally find their way to contact us or whatever it may be.
And are you I would say one other top of funnel traffic on LinkedIn?
Yes, I am. Look, the tracking on LinkedIn is not as good as let's say Facebook or Google. Each one has their own challenges. I would say Facebook's advantage is that you're basically always logged in. People are logged into their mobile phone. People are logged into their desktop. I see all the leads on Facebook. My bigger problem is seeing them in our internal dashboards because there's a cross-device and you don't have a sign-in. Sure. But okay, so I trust Facebook's number. Google, fortunately or unfortunately, but most of my searches is desktop only. I guess it's because it's a B2B product. I haven't had real success cracking mobile on search, so I'll have it on branded or whatever it may be. But certainly at scale, I have not had real search. LinkedIn is kind of the worst of both worlds because people aren't necessarily logged in both, and there are a lot of mobile things. There's a couple things that I have found value from. One I would say are text ads. I don't know if you've been onto LinkedIn, they have like the little ads on the side. They have
much cheaper clicks that way
on some of their partners. So the clicks aren't necessarily cheap per se. I will say that they're not cheap per se, actually, but they don't spend so much money because not so many people click on them. On the other hand, the intent is great. Okay, you could have like a 10, 15, 20% conversion rate there. Depending on, the targeting. And I mean, I don't want to say I definitely did not say you have a 20% conversion rate on text ads. I'm saying that the type of person who is clicking on your text ad is the type of person who probably has the free time to get to your landing page and read your value proposition or see your video or fill in the...
There's nothing.
There's a little logo. Yeah, it's not. It's kind of the anti-clickbait. Okay. Yeah. The other thing that I found a lot of value with is, and something that I should really get into a little bit about LinkedIn is a lot of our sales cycles depend on obviously geo, but also company size. I mean, it's not just about I want to make a sale. Right. An $100,000 a year sale is clearly more valuable for me than a $7,500, although I'm happy to take either. So a big part of our sales is based on company size. So that doesn't necessarily mean I only target companies of 10,000 people or more, but it does mean that in divisions, and in the end of the day, we have different sales divisions, and certain divisions need more help. It's easier for me to target. So one thing that I've had a lot of and one thing I've had a lot of success with is what we call message ads, which is kind of like their in-mail ads, which is not, hey, come try SimilarWeb. We have all kinds of white papers, and it's mostly, hey, you might find this report interesting. Go check it out. Here's download it. If they find again, if the report is good and if it's provided value, we believe that we can convert this person into a sale. So that's something that I've honestly only started only a couple months ago, but it has seen a tremendous growth in the last couple months, and hopefully it'll continue.
Awesome. What's your biggest challenge right now? You know, you're spending a ton, you're spending probably more than most marketers out there. What challenges you the most in the acquisition world right now?
So look, attribution is killing. In the end of the day, you need to understand what people are doing. And I'm forgetting this. In my MBA class, one of my first classes, they had that when you specialize in marketing, they have this very famous marketer whose name escapes me at the very moment, who says, "I know he says I'm wasting half my marketing budget. I just don't know which half." Yeah. Okay, so even that, and even with internet marketing, and you know, an iOS update and all these fun things that are that they move the cheese the second we get there. So in the end of the day, that's my biggest challenge. I would say that in the end that it's still difficult to actually prove where does every marketing dollar go for LinkedIn or Facebook. I think that if you have kind of more like an automated product, and again, we do, it's not necessarily our biggest focus, but we do. Yep. It's a little bit easier, okay? Because, you know, if you have a good funnel and you could do Facebook mobile, and then you have all the conversions there, and you're good. Same thing even with LinkedIn, maybe, although I've seen it less. So I think that there's a certain issue though with like, and I trust Facebook's data. Just so it's clear, Facebook's data I totally trust, and I'm literally using the same triggers on GTM that I am for Google. And so if I see Google's numbers totally match, and I see Facebook's numbers are way off, I realize that the issue is the cross-device issue rather than a Facebook issue. Yeah. So I would say that that's a big challenge. More, I would say that somewhat, for me is that I came into this position, and in a way, it's like being a kid in a candy shop. We're a big company with very little paid experience, and I don't want to say I could do whatever I want, but there's a lot of freedom for me to do things, and there's tons of things that I could focus my time on. But there are also a ton of stakeholders, and when you, especially when you're in a company this big, no one's wrong. There's no one who's the bad guy. Okay, 10 different people want something from you. You could do a good job for 3 of them. You could do a mediocre job for 6 of them. You can't do it at all for 10 people. So what do you do? So I think a big part of growing and maturity and whatever it may be is kind of figuring out, okay, I could do everything, but what are the levers that I could pull that are most valuable for the company? Okay. And that was something that definitely, it takes time, because you have to understand the company, you have to understand this. I hope I'm getting, on top of it at this point. I hope I am already on top of it. So
going back to what you said a moment ago about you're a kid in the candy store, you could try whatever you want. What's on the horizon is the next thing you're seeing out there in the market. It could be a paid channel, it could be some other marketing approach. Where do you think is the next best opportunity that you guys haven't tried that you really think is interesting and might be the next growth lever?
Okay, so I'll tell you, and I say this as I mentioned, I was the former head of the Disney department, and that Y stands for YouTube. And truthfully, YouTube, I did a ton of YouTube performance ads. Okay. And by performance, I did not work in a SaaS company. It was, here's the video, go buy this product. And it worked. It worked on mobile even, okay? So the B2B world is not like that, okay? If I'm being judged solely on cost per lead on YouTube, I should never do that. Right. That being said, video is a tremendous opportunity for us, both on YouTube and Facebook. Now, how do you quantify that? Okay, how do you quantify that? Now, so what I started doing is I say, okay, I don't want to lead. I mean, I do want to lead, but I'm not going to optimize per lead. I'm going to optimize to stage X in the funnel. Okay, people who got to a certain stage. Oh, I have a ton of conversions there, so then I could keep dropping the conversion lower in the funnel until I'm at a level where I'm only getting 50 conversions a week, and that's the minimum. I don't think I can't speak to the kind of ads that you get in the United States, but in Israel, certainly we get a lot of ads for Monday.com, which is another tech company.
We get those in the US also. A lot.
Okay, all right. I assumed that they were interested in the U.S. market and it wasn't just Israel, but they also just had an IPO and they spend a ton of money on YouTube. So Grammarly too, that's another one that's tech. So the idea of making videos, I think, is a huge potential for us. It's definitely something I don't need to be convinced that it works. I need to be convinced of how I measure it. And how I get the maximum value of it. And the other thing is, especially when you come from so that's a big thing. When you work in an agency, you're what do you mean? You're spoiled because you understand how processes work. Okay, every week we would have different video tests. These are the video tests. We spent 5K, 10K on it. It didn't work. Goodbye. Next. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean we made a video from zero, but it was a different test. Here, it's not necessarily, well, I always want to get back to this, right? There's no one's wrong, okay? But there's simply a lack of resources. So if I asked for a new video every week, the creative department would be like, what do you want from my life? And we're building towards it, and it's definitely, and we have actually gotten some great videos. I definitely want to, if anyone watches this, our last video was excellent, and I'm really pleased with the view rate we have on YouTube.
It's a big shout out to the SimilarWeb content team.
It says, SimilarWeb, what we call the PMM. He did an excellent job. If he sees this, he knows who he is. And I was talking to him today. So nice. Good job, Kyle.
Great. Last question, then we're going to go into the quick lightning round. If I could snap my fingers right now and create a product to make your life easier, simpler, help you do your job better, what do you wish existed out there in the market today?
Oh, that's a tough question. An instant product. I mean, I think I would invent it if I could think of it. Look, there's a couple different things I could say from creative analysis. I would say that and I know a couple tools on the market, and they have their value. I would say that. Again, we live and die on data. So I know that there's to understand exactly why there's maybe I could say view rate, or I could say drop-off points in a video, but what exactly is resonating with them, okay? When it comes to awareness, how do I measure that? I think that we've had conversations with it internally, and it's a little bit tricky. So you measure branded searches, organic, or whatever, but there's not a great measure of it, and there's not what I would call a relative measure of it. And when GDN has this metric that's called relative CTR. Okay, your CTR is irrelevant, assuming someone's running your targeting exactly your audience. How much better or worse are your ads? So I was, something that could really give me an impact on awareness or measure various elements in videos, I think would be like tremendous for me.
Awesome. Super. This has been great so far. We're going to jump into the lightning round. 5 quick questions, 5 quick answers, and then we'll wrap this up. So first question, I think you mentioned it before, but what's your personal situation? Single, married, kids?
Married. 3 kids, 11, 9, and 1. My son was born literally a week before we went into lockdown. So
amazing.
It's been an amazing year.
Fantastic. What book would you recommend to our readers? It could be a fiction book, business book.
So it's it's a book I love, although it really has nothing to do with marketing. And please do not watch the movie, is World War Z. Everyone has to read that book, and no one should watch the movie. Okay? The book is absolutely one of the most brilliant things I've ever written. It's a book on sociology. It actually, I think, has a lot of parallels with the pandemic. The movie totally destroyed it. So forget about
check it out. What's your favorite marketing or productivity tool right now that you're using to make your life better?
So look, I mean, it's cheesy, but I use SimilarWeb all the time. I literally, especially when I have 5 different
Great.
solutions,
If you're using it, not just
I'm
promoting it.
literally taking it to check all my competitors to see what they're doing. If I had to say a non-SimilarWeb, Trello or Asana.
Okay.
It's
Super.
just the time management.
Yep. Who's your favorite marketer or business influencer that you're learning from these days?
So actually, when we were working together, it was the first time I ever heard her speak, is Iris Shore. She's an Israeli. She had an exit beforehand. She has a
Oribi.
company, Oribi.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, when I spoke to my Facebook rep, every time I would speak to her, she would say, "Oh, you got to see what Oribi's doing. They're doing great things with their funnel, and they are doing great things with their funnel."
Yeah.
Because she's great.
Okay, amazing. And are there any online communities or websites that you're learning from?
Online or community websites. LinkedIn, I would say, would be like, where I mostly gain value from. I wouldn't say so much the groups, but my feed is interesting. Like, I have like-minded people, and yeah, I find very interesting things there.
And lastly, where can our listeners go to learn more about you, Ben?
I mean, look, you could look me up on LinkedIn, Benjamin Bernstein. That's my name.
Okay.
So anyone who wants to connect with me on LinkedIn, just shoot me a note and say, "Hey, I heard you on the podcast." I'm happy to connect. I'll approve you. And if you want to talk, I try and I'm a believer in karma. So obviously, if anyone has like a question that I could answer, here or there, I'm happy to communicate with you via LinkedIn.
Amazing.
And
Perfect.
if I could help, great.
Great. Ben, thank you so much for joining us on the show. I'm really glad we got to reconnect
Thank
again.
you.
Haven't chatted in a while, old friends. And I know you provided a lot of value for listeners, so thank you for that.
What? No problem, Aaron.